We're the homie dogs.
What's up, homie dogs?
Who let the dogs out?
We're here with Finley, Brianna, Leanna, and Nathalie. We're going to be discussing Persepolis. So I think we should just start, what stood out most to you in the novel?
Well, I'd never read a graphic novel before, so that was interesting. Did you guys like the book?
I did. I was a big fan of it. I liked it a lot more than I was expecting to. I was very nervous going into it.
Why you were nervous?
Because I don't classify myself as a graphic novel fan.
I would agree.
And it really exceeded my expectations, I must say.
That's good.
Yeah.
I feel like it went by really fast. Like, he gave us large chunks to read.
It was
but,
an easy read.
I read it and I was like, oh, you get very immersed into it. And I think it's, a really nice, medium if you want. It's best for telling someone's life story.
Yeah.
Because you can see it happening. You wouldn't do, Lord of the Rings in terms of graphic novels because that wouldn't make sense. But this type of novel where it's someone's, life and it's someone, narrating to you makes sense in this form.
Yeah, I liked the whole book except for the end. I didn't like how it ended with the grandma dying. I just thought it was random. Well, not, random. It just wasn't well explained.
Yeah, it just seemed it just stopped. There was no real ending.
Abrupt.
Yeah, but maybe that makes sense because she didn't die, so, she's still alive.
I just wish at the end she did more of a reflection on what she learned.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a very open-ended ending, which I don't appreciate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it... I keep forgetting that it was just kind of a diary of, her life. So I feel if it wasn't her just writing about her life, you should expect something more for the ending, but... Maybe that's just when she decided to stop writing the book, yeah. So she just kind of, this is the last subplot that I want to talk about, and then she stopped.
Here's a question. What did you guys think was the lesson of the book?
I think a lot of it was remaining true to herself,
Yes.
Yeah, I liked how Margie always managed to find herself. She'd always lose herself, and she'd always pick up. She's like, "Oh, these are my values." She'd always come back to her true self. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and I think that relates to us a lot as little college students finding ourselves.
It was definitely a good book to read at this time. Yeah. It was. It wasn't as relatable as expected. I feel it was more relatable. At least for me, I went into it thinking, I'm not going to find any part of this book to relate to. There's nothing similar between me and her, and come to find out there was a lot, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that she never let herself get victimized, that part where she was in the diner, and the girl was telling her.
Yeah,
she's the girl's well, my brother would never be with someone like her.
Yeah.
And she's I'm proud to be Iranian, and blah, blah, blah. And it's she could have spent a lot of her life wallowing, but she refused to, and I respect that a lot.
That was an example of her finding herself, because at first she told the guy she was French, and then she realized that she should be proud to be Iranian.
It's true. And I feel in that situation, if I heard two people talking about me, I definitely would not turn around to them and be start talking to them.
She has these bursts of
she's definitely
aggression.
Yeah,
I really like.
Yeah, but it's also she just doesn't care about what anybody thinks.
Exactly.
And I feel that's so real, the bursts of aggression.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, she's just
some things just really bother her, and she's listen.
Yeah.
And when
I'm not going to let that happen.
When we were listening to her talk about it too, you could tell she was still very proud of it, because she was
she would have gone back and hit her harder.
Yeah. She was when she was talking about the posters, she was nobody had posters that were as big as mine. They had smaller posters, but they all wanted my posters. And I was you go, girl.
I like how after listening to that interview with her, the book was so real. It was literally the way she spoke.
Yeah.
How much of the attitude do you think was the influence of her family? She did have a lot of strong people in her family, especially the women.
Yeah, I think her grandmother really influenced her. So I feel whenever she'd make any decision, she'd always go back, would grandma like this, or would she do this? Or she always wanted her input, even with her mom too. She's always surrounded by strong women.
Yeah. And even just all the members of her family, they were always going out to protest and stuff, and helping her become educated about what was going on. Her dad gave her books, I think, right? Mm-hmm. So they were there.
So Marjan was always a little different from the kids her age? Like, why do you? In what ways do you think she was like different from the kids around her?
Well, she was very educated. She knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't brainwashed, or she didn't, like, she just had her own opinions, and she knew what was actually going on.
Even on stuff that she wasn't, like, completely aware of or, like, educated on. She was really curious about everything, which I think a lot of the kids her age, especially when she was, like, 10 and 11, like they didn't really care about what was going on. They were just, like...
Yeah, she actually cared.
Exactly. Like, she wanted to
She
know
was
what was
very
going
mature.
on. Yeah.
But she also had a tendency to take those ideas. I mean, what was the thing when she chased that kid because his dad
Because
was...
Yeah.
his dad was
Yeah,
like a communist.
so she took...
Or
She
killing
really,
the
like,
communists, I think.
involved herself in the ideas
Like,
and, like,
he
what
was
was
a-
going on, and she even
Took
chased
it
that
too
child
far.
down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
she was like,
males.
if
Yeah.
nobody else is going to stop him, I'm going to.
So, like, that was an aspect where she was, like, you know, a child.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just
True, that shows,
immature.
like, her child.
Yeah, that shows a
Side
bit
coming
like
out.
Yeah.
her understanding the ideas shows how she was different, but her reactions to them often show like
Yeah.
what, like how she's the same. That was actually like funny to me because like if you think of her life in stages, she goes through a lot of the stages that we do, like, you know, like being super extra as a child, and then like the angsty teen phase, you know,
Yeah.
wanting to fit in. Like, it's amazing to me that someone who's going through such a different like experience than all of us are still is relating to us in such a way where we can
Yeah.
understand like her acting out or her like wanting to fit in and smoke cigarettes
Yeah.
and trip and stuff.
That's a really good point. So the movie.
Oh, yeah. So, we saw the movie. Which one did you guys like better? The book or the movie?
The book,
I like the book.
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
which is what
Not
most
always.
people say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of liked them both, like, equally.
I liked them separately.
Yeah.
But if you tried to tell me that the movie, like, goes with the book, I wouldn't. Like, if I had to pick between them, I'd pick the book, but I did like the movie.
Yeah.
Like, had the movie just come out without the book ever existing,
I would have really enjoyed
would
it.
have really loved it, but with like the context of the book in mind, it
Mhm.
lacks.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of pacing, like that's what really messed me up was how much faster. Like, I knew things were gonna get cut out and that like the pacing was gonna be faster, but just it moved so much faster, especially because it was like animated, that I was like blown away like by how fast it was moving through.
Yeah. That's true. And I also felt like it was a little bit different, like, not being able to read her feelings, which I guess is true for any book to movie
Yeah.
conversion, you know? It's you never
You just
feel
don't know
as-
their thoughts.
Yeah, you never feel as connected to the character.
In the movies, you can't
You-
get the narration
Yeah.
as much as you can, especially in a graphic novel where there is a bubble of narration.
You know what like messed me up too is that like because the movie moved so fast, there were times where an emotional moment would happen and then like it didn't give you
Yeah,
enough
it would
time to
just move
process
on.
it. Which
Yeah,
I
that's
honestly
true.
feel like when
Like
she was
that-
talking about getting suicidal
Yeah.
and like that whole
it
part
just
of her
breezed
life,
past it.
Oh,
it
yeah.
like
I hated that.
yeah, and the book part of it was really well done, I thought, and like
Yeah.
the way she just kind of like slowly told us like I started to like I forget how she words it, but she's like I started to like not enjoy life more and more,
Yeah.
as opposed to in the movie where it just kind of threw that scene at you where she's like overdosing and she's like in God's hand, like basically dead, like that whole
But the visual effects for that, like that particular scene, was also cool.
it was a
like,
very
in comparison.
yeah, it was a really
to the
cool
book.
scene, and I think like production wise it was done really well.
Yeah.
It was
It
just
changed like the emotion behind
Yeah.
the scene.
Yeah.
Another scene that I thought was like that was when she finds the body of her friend after the bombing, and there's just that panel of darkness, and she says she doesn't know, like there's nothing that would have like drowned out her scream. Like that gives you like a feeling of like emptiness and like stillness.
I
It's
love
like a
that
very
scene.
It was, like, my
still
favorite,
moment.
yeah.
in the book and
It's
the
a-
movie.
That's like
resonates.
a turning point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It resonates a lot, but I feel like in the movie it moved past it so
I don't
fast.
even remember
Yeah.
how they did it in the movie.
And then the fact that
I think it was just a black screen in
was
the
just a
movie
black
too, but
screen.
it
But,
It
like,
just kind
wasn't.
of like the hand just kind of like it went all
It, like,
dark
faded
and
to
then the
black,
hand
but, like,
was just like there.
Yeah.
seeing
It wasn't
just
the
the
same.
panel of black gives you the sense of like stillness
Yeah.
and like quiet that you didn't feel like with her actually hearing her scream. Like I feel like hearing that scream that she did wasn't necessary in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
moment because it actually detracted
It-
from what she was feeling.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my god, I forgot about the screen.
I think even looking at it from like just the book's perspective, like that might be a big reason as to why, like, I don't know if necessarily just this book, but just books in general have a different feeling rather than movies, because you can, as the reader, look at that frame for as long as you felt necessary.
You can take the
Oh,
time
yeah.
to like process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think
You're
clearly we
choosing to,
all
like,
looked at it
turn the
longer.
page. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
than
can
the movie
sit
did.
for 5 minutes and be like, wow. But
Exactly, and the
yeah.
movie just continues going, and then the
Yeah.
next scene is like not as dark, and you're just like, oh, her life continued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I did want to say that also. I felt like after the suicide scene, the getting over it was even so much less meaningful. Like
Because
Yeah,
it was
I
like
actually
I get
agree
like
with
that.
comedic relief.
First, yeah, that
in
scene was
such a dark movie,
yeah.
but
that scene was
after
a
that's-
joke.
yeah.
First of all,
Yeah.
Second of all, it wasn't even like, oh, I was like taking care of myself, and like you don't even like get that sense. She just starts doing
Because in the
dance
book,
classes.
it shows her how she like overcame it.
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
She's like, you know what, I'm gonna like be positive. But
seems
in
a lot
Yeah.
more
the movie,
triumphant.
Yeah.
Rather
Honestly.
than a joke.
Yeah.
Song.
Honestly, in the book, like she took like a frame here and was like, I like did this to my physical appearance, made me feel better, and then I did this to my
Yeah,
mental state.
exactly.
And in the movie, it literally was just like, I'm going to college now, and now I do aerobics.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Also,
What?
I don't like that they cut out certain parts. Like,
But also, Emergent, she like directed the movie, right?
well, she was a part
yeah,
of it.
She must have like agreed to that. So I wonder why.
I think
Maybe
sure-
she just doesn't like
yeah.
talking about it, and she'd rather just like.
I mean, I'm sure there's a mix of like her having a say, but also people who know more about like
Exactly.
making the movie just kind
Or,
of
like,
like
how to sell a movie.
like making
yeah.
it more of like an entertainment
Yeah.
thing.
Like
Yeah.
one thing that they cut out that I think would have been like important was when she first met what's her man's name?
Reza.
Reza. Yeah, when she meets Reza and her friend doesn't want to talk to her anymore.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was really
that's something that
confused,
I
'cause
feel
that
like
was just
the
kind
movie
of-
could have expanded on. 'cause
It didn't even talk
confused me
about it,
When she
didn't it?
married, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
it
book,
didn't even
it just
mention-
happens,
No, they didn't at
and
all.
then I'm
Yeah,
like a
they-
bit
I was
confused, and I
thinking
thought the
that.
movie would expand on it, and it doesn't. So it's just like
And, like,
they
they
cut
would-
out
they
odd
would-
parts.
it would
Did they
even,
talk about
like-
the gay friend, the gay boyfriend.
Yes, they did.
They did. Okay.
Oh yeah, that was very quick too. They just had one night, and you don't like see what happens or anything, but then it's assumed.
Yeah, like
They
roles
did
that
something.
like things that seem really important and like pivotal in her life in the novel take
Yeah.
like a back seat
Yeah.
in the movie, which I didn't like. Like they cut out odd parts of it, like parts that. Like I feel like if we were to sit down and be like, what part would I cut out that didn't seem as important? We'd probably cut out different parts of the ones that were. So it just seemed like an
Yeah.
odd like mix and match. Like when her mother goes to visit her, that was an important time for her because it was like her thinking, I have to get my act together. And they didn't count that. Like when she was living with all 8 men and her mom went and she missed her mom's cooking. Like that was
Yeah.
important.
That was like 0.2 seconds in the movie. It's like I
Yeah.
also lived with 8 gay men.
And then they just like
That's
completely
it.
disregarded
Yeah.
it. It's like, what?
That was so fast.
Yeah.
This is the end of our podcast. This was the Homie Dogs. See you in the next book, Mr. Koch.